Raheem called, but I decided I'm going to stay in LA. This is RamView.
It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Headline, Los Angeles.
Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the February 5th, 2024 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident, need help, got questions, call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word. KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Granite Ridge Christian Camp, a place where your life can change. Yeah, it is early. I never get on this early. Usually doing my church devotional at this time. It's about 7:27 here on the West Coast. But my wife is having surgery this morning, and if I didn't pop this thing out now, I wouldn't be able to pop it out later, and I kind of want to hit my mark. I want to make sure we get our Monday, Wednesday, Friday in. So I'm going to speed through this show a little bit, and I do apologize for those that are clicking on later because I probably won't have a lot of the Q&A that we have that really is kind of cool. And just to be perfectly honest, Raheem Morris didn't call me. He seems to have called everybody else. And that's okay, right? But we've decided to stay in LA. Hey, I just want to go through some Rams stuff before we get into the NFL business and Super Bowl and everything. I'm part of Rams Rule. It's a commentary site. You just type in Rams Rule, it'll take you there and stuff. And it's just a message board. And I like it because it kind of gives you a feel. And yeah, there's a couple people there that probably, I don't want to get in too many deep conversations with them there, but there are also quite a few that have really good takes, really good insight, and you respect them. And as I was just posting thoughts, I post the show there and I post thoughts because I want to get feedback. I want to hear what people think. I posted last week's story where I talked about, hey, I'd like the Rams to be a little more creative with Ernest Jones. Not necessarily move him to the edge, but just be creative with him and move him around because I think he's uber talented as well as extending him. And on Rams Rule, there's one commentator there named Jim Youngblood 53. I don't know his name, but he's one of the chief guys there. He does a great job. And he says he understood where I was coming from and that the Rams should draft a linebacker and that the Rams should extend Ernest Jones. But he didn't like the idea of floating Jones out around on the defense, and I argued about occasionally putting him on the edge. And Jim Youngblood 53 said he didn't believe Jones had the skill set for that or the size to go against larger tackles. And that has merit to it. That does have merit to it. I still like the idea of moving him around, but I love disagreement. And I thought it was a good thing to lead the show with. We can disagree, right? Without, saying you suck, right? So love disagreement. It makes us work harder, right, to back up our points. Some of the stuff that was floated a lot over the weekend, I really wasn't going to address it, but I saw it popping up in a lot of places because Steve Young made that comment about Zach Wilson would be a good fit for the Rams, or Zach Wilson could be saved by Sean McVay and the Rams. And I have no doubt about that. I think McVay is special, but not when you're in a Super Bowl window. I don't want Zach Wilson backing up Matthew Stafford with the Rams in a Super Bowl window. You know who I want backing up Matthew Stafford when the Rams are in a Super Bowl window? I want Carson Wentz backing up Matthew Stafford, right? Maybe if it was, 2019 and the Rams were established, had already been to a Super Bowl, maybe. But more like 2016, 2015, they brought in Kyle Bowler, right? Of course, that was more early St. Louis, but 2005, 2006. I'm trying to remember we had Kyle Bowler in there, but I don't want to be teaching remedial football or remedial NFL when my team's going on the verge of going through a Super Bowl window. So that's why I think Carson Wentz is a priority. I hope they can find a way to get it done. And so we'll leave it at that. The other question that came up that popped up in certain places was OBJ. Do the Rams want OBJ back? And I say no. I know people love the idea. I think OBJ did a great job for the Rams, but I thought taking another year off of football like he did in 2022, and then this year, he didn't look great. He looked okay. He looked like a competent NFL receiver. You know, if he's dirt cheap, I get it, but I don't want to bring OBJ back if there's any way to keep Demarcus Robinson. Who do you think's a better receiver right now? Not all time, but right now, OBJ or Demarcus Robinson? You know, a guy that's hungry to get the bag, make a little bit more money. Yeah, I'm not real big on bringing OBJ back. I want Demarcus Robinson back. Regarding Raheem Morris poaching Nick Jones, KJ Black, and Tim Burbridge, you know, I might have read their names. They weren't really high up on the totem pole. They were all low on the totem pole, young and looking for their first opportunities. It's nothing new. It's nothing new. It's nothing to get worked up about. And Sean McVay, I'm sure, has a drawer full of applicants he can pull open and bring somebody in to fill their spots. It's really not that big of a deal. It's just a nice story between the conference championship games and the Super Bowl because we got nothing else to talk about, and it has a local feel to it. Around the NFL and other places, I'm going to say this and then just move on. It's a terrible thing for someone to be an alcoholic. It's a sad thing. It's an awful thing for them to drive drunk. It's an evil thing for them to drive drunk on multiple occasions. And it's a terrible thing to do to your son as he preps for a Super Bowl. Hashtag selfish much, right? The dad needs to be made to feel guilty and shame, right? That he needs that. He needs to feel guilt and shame. If he's really loved by his friends and family, he needs an emotional butt kicking, not understanding, before receiving any compassion. You don't do these things to your kids, right? Let's throw that out there. Cliff Kingsbury changes his mind about the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders go out and hire a former Bears OC, Luke Getsy. And then I thought it was really weird that it was on the same day I read these things. Luke Getsy hooks up with the Raiders, and ESPN projects Raider quarterback Justin Fields going to the Raiders, projects Bears quarterback Justin Fields going to the Raiders. If so, I might have understand why Kingsbury wanted out if they were going to force Justin Fields on him. Getsy, who coached Fields in Chicago, and they're now together or possibly to be together in Vegas. That would be a terrible mistake by the Raiders, just a terrible mistake. If I'm drafting at number 13, which is where the Raiders are on the board, if Penix is still available, Bo Nix is still available, wouldn't you prefer either of them to Justin Fields at this point? I just don't get it. I don't get it. Dolphins hire Anthony Weaver from the Ravens to be the DC. Tampa Bay center, I thought this was interesting. Ryan Jensen retired. He came into the NFL, 6th round pick in 2013 out of, I think, a Division II school, Colorado State Pueblo, right? Played 8 seasons in the NFL, won a Super Bowl, was part of that Tom Brady run. He didn't miss a start from 2017 to 2021, and now it's over because of a really bad knee injury back in 2021 and 2022, I think it was, really laid him up. He hasn't played much the last 2 years. But in that career, a guy from Division II Colorado State made 68.5 rocks in his career. That's pretty good. That's a job well done for a 6th round pick from a Division II school. So congratulations to Ryan Jensen. I'm Joe Terosian. I was a sports writer for 21 years, one of the founding members of Mid-Valley Sports. And now I do RamView, thanks to our sponsors at Kistler Law and Temple City Auto. I also write books. My books can be found on Amazon. This is my first novel, Tangent Dreams, received good reviews, did well. I've written 2 high school football novels. I have a 3rd football novel coming out very soon called Game Day in the Ram Cave, about fellas watching the games together, and then as well as some other Christian novels. And that kind of gives you a tip off to my day job. I'm a pastor of a small church in Burbank called Burbank Faith Nazarene, and you can find us right here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual, burbankfaithvirtual.com, and other places across social media. I don't have too many questions to answer today. Like I said, we're kind of spinning this one quick because my wife is having a outpatient surgery today, something before her auto accident, and that was scheduled before she got hit by the car. So I want to get this in because I want to make sure we hit our marks before. I just want to hit my marks Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And so we're doing it now. Okay. Rams schedule. I've been talking about the Rams schedule, 17 games, 6 in the division, 49ers, Cardinals, Seahawks, and the other teams are the Bears, Lions, Packers, Vikings, Bills, Dolphins, Patriots, Jets, Eagles, and Raiders and Saints. My first take when I look at this, barring whatever we know that happens this offseason, is this is double-digit win season for the Rams. 12 games is not out of the question, right? 12 games not out of the question. So I broke down who the playoff teams were on Friday, and today I'm going to do the quarterback comparison. And you tell me, and I think in every one of these things, if Stafford is upright and healthy, like you could say that about anybody, Rams have the advantage at quarterback going into next year's 2024 schedule. Against the 49ers, Stafford versus Purdy. You know, Purdy could win a Super Bowl, but I'm still leaning Stafford. Stafford versus Kyler Murray, Stafford. Stafford versus Geno Smith, Drew Lock, or whoever the Seahawks bring in this year. I'm leaning Stafford. Stafford versus, I don't think it'll be Justin Fields. Maybe it'll be Caleb Williams, but Caleb Williams' first year in Chicago, I'm going Stafford. Stafford versus Goff with the Lions, I'm going Stafford. Stafford versus Jordan Love, I'm going Stafford at this point. Stafford versus whoever's in Minnesota, maybe Kirk Cousins comes back, I'm going Stafford. Stafford versus Josh Allen, I'm going Josh Allen, right? Stafford versus Tua, that's right here in SoFi, I'm going Stafford. Stafford versus who would it be in New England? Mac Jones, Jaden Daniels, we're hearing talk. I'm going Stafford. Stafford versus Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers after a year off, another year older. I'm going Stafford. Stafford versus Jalen Hurts. Hurts hasn't looked right since before the Super Bowl last year. I'm going Stafford. And then, of course, Stafford versus anything the Raiders bring on board. Stafford. Stafford versus Derek Carr. I'm going Stafford. That's 17 games. And in 16 of those games, Rams will have a clear advantage at quarterback. And so, again, just doing a little piecemeal of the schedule going into next year. Wanted to knock those things out to help enhance the idea that this is a Super Bowl window for the Rams. And it'll be interesting to see how this whole offseason plays out. Really appreciate you guys being with me this morning and understanding my situation and hanging out with me. Thank you guys so much. Say hi. I'll do my best to say hi back to you. And here we go. Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday's coming up. 11-6 Chiefs, 12-5 49ers. As I said, I've liked the Chiefs. I was digging it out, right? We had the Joe Montana Bowl, the Steve Bono Bowl, the Elvis Gerbach Bowl, the Alex Smith Bowl. But the one that predates them all is the Steve DeBerg Bowl, as everyone forgets that Steve DeBerg was the 49ers quarterback before Joe Montana, right? Steve DeBerg was also a Chiefs quarterback with Dave Craig in the middle there before Joe Montana arrived. So I thought that was interesting that all those quarterbacks, Steve DeBerg, Joe Montana, Steve Bono, Elvis Gerbach, Alex Smith, all started with the 49ers and ended up starting with the Kansas City Chiefs. I thought it was interesting. Looking at the 49ers schedule, they finished 12-5 this year. They were 5-3 against playoff teams. The Chiefs, 11-6, were 1-4 against playoff teams. And I think there was that feeling. And I was right there with everybody else. I thought the Chiefs were not going to go anywhere, and they turned it around like champions do, right? They turned it on down the stretch. As you look at these teams, the key for me, and maybe I'm off base on this, and I'll let you guys correct me, but the key for me for the Chiefs right now is their interior line of Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith. Now think about Trey Smith. Trey Smith is a beast. Trey Smith was a 6th round, 227th overall pick in 2021 out of Tennessee, and he is locked up right guard for them. A 6th rounder locking up right guard in the interior of the line. And of course, Creed Humphrey is the greatest Ram who never played for the Rams. We know that. And then you bring in Joe Thuney, who is an all-pro caliber left guard, and the interior is awesome for the Chiefs, right? Awesome for the Chiefs. But Thuney has an injury. No one's quite sure what it is. Maybe it's a pec, something going on there. And the odds are he might not play. If he is playing and he is healthy, think about what that interior Chiefs line is going to do to that overrated Frisco front of Hargrave and Eric Armstead. We saw what the young Packers did to them. We saw what Frank Ragnow and Glasgow with Lions did to them. it could be a lot worse. Now, if Thuney doesn't play, there's a good chance that, well, it's not a good chance. Nick Allegretti, a competent veteran backup who's been with the Chiefs since 2019. He started the game in Baltimore. Chances are he's going to play. He has a lot of experience, and he's not a chump. He's competent, and I think he's good enough where I think if Thuney played, I think it could be a blowout. If Allegretti plays, I think Frisco's got a little bit of a chance, but I just like this interior line, and nothing's going to come up the middle on Mahomes, and he's going to have that extra time to throw the ball because we know he can maneuver. And again, this is why I really, really like the Chiefs in this game. My first instinct from the get-go, Chiefs 35-17, Chiefs 38-17. I don't think it'll be. I just get this feeling it won't be close, but I also believe this, that the 49ers are going to ramp up. It's the Super Bowl. Nick Bosa got active against Detroit, got his first sack since Christmas. And so he's going to be amped up because he doesn't want to embarrass himself. Chase Young knows he's playing for a contract, and I just don't think he's very good. I never thought he was very good after that initial year in Washington. So glad the Rams didn't make a move to get him. And he wants a contract. And Randy Gregory hasn't done a whole lot. None of these guys have done a whole lot. And again, Hargrave and Eric Armstead have shown they can be pushed. But I think they're going to turn it on a little bit in the first half. I think it'll be competitive for a while. I could see it being, 28-21, 30-24. I'm not going to give my final prediction yet. But yeah, my first instinct is to think blowout, right? I could be so wrong, but that's my first instinct there. Remember, Frisco couldn't stop the Packers or the Lions on the ground. The Chiefs are a Super Bowl experienced team. They got a competent running game, an exceptional quarterback, and a next level play caller in Andy Reid. Yeah. So you tell me how that figures out for the 49ers, even though, I'm not downing Kyle Shanahan much. All right. February 5th, on this day in history, the Rams actually re-signed Chuck Knox. There's a question about how long the contract was, but he had been flirting with going to Detroit heading into the 76 season. There was a rumor that Red Miller would have been the Rams coach in 77 before he ended up in Denver. But there was a lot of stuff going on there with Chuck Knox. And what I remember about that day was in those days was Chuck Knox was boring. That's what everyone said. I didn't get boring in those days, but I liked winning. I didn't experience Ram losing because my first full season was 73. And then seems like after Knox left, the madness kind of started, right? The madness started. And initially, when you're reading some of these early reports that Knox stayed one more season after Detroit wanted him, that what was interesting when you read those reports was that the Rams said, Carroll Rosenbloom said, no way would he bring back George Allen. And then he brought back George Allen. So that was interesting. Let's see, born on this day, Alvin Wright. Remember Alvin Wright, defensive tackle for the Rams in the 80s? He was born on this day in 1961. Wide receiver Red Phillips, we've talked about him from the 50s. He was born on this day in 1936. But the one we want to talk about was born in 1948, 8th round, 204th pick in 1970. Played at Michigan State. His name was Rick Saul. He had a twin brother named Ron Saul. Saul was a backup. Number 61 was a backup for his first 5 seasons with the Rams, serving as a long snapper as well. And it was tough to work into the Rams offensive line in those days. You got Shabelli, you got Mack, you got Cowan, you got Iman. You're not getting any room unless one of those guys go down, and none of those guys went down. Finally, after the 74 season, the Rams moved off of Ken Iman, and Saul came in as starting center for the next 7 years, playing in every game, starting in all but one. 6 times he was elected to the Pro Bowl. If you want to talk about a guy that's lost to history, underrated and underappreciated, it's Rick Saul. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2012 after a long battle with leukemia. But he was the second in the string of 3 centers the Rams had from 1965 through 1991, 27 seasons. All the Rams had at center was Ken Iman, Rick Saul, and Doug Smith. That is pretty powerful, right? That's a great run. And that's why when you look at that time for the Rams, you understand why they were successful for so long and almost always a perennial team, right? 65, they weren't. Allen got there in 66. They were a winning team, didn't make the playoffs. They made the playoffs in 67 and 69. Won double-digit games in 68. Didn't make the playoffs because of the screwy system. 1970, they won 9 games, and Allen's last year just barely missed the playoffs. And then under the Pro Throw years in 71, 72, things kind of fell apart, missed the playoffs those years. But then from 73 through 80, they made the playoffs every year. 83, they made the playoffs every year through 89. This was a long run, and it was keyed by these centers. And Rick Saul was at the centerpiece of it. And really, don't you think Rick Saul should get some serious revisits? I really do. Okay, since we're not going to be on the air tomorrow, I did want to pump this thing in. Niner gang, no Jimmy G this time. Okay. All right. You know what? I agree with you. I think Brock Purdy is better than Jimmy G. And I'm operating from a position of bitterness, Niner guy. So I'm glad you clicked on. And you're right. I don't know. It's funny. So are all the 49er fans out on Jimmy G? Okay, I got a couple minutes here. On this day in 1973, in February 6, 1973, the Rams hired Ken Meyer and Lehman Bennett as assistant coaches. Meyer served 4 years as the Rams OC and then became the 49ers coach for 1 year in 1977. Lehman Bennett was the Rams receivers coach from 73 through 76, and then became head coach with the Atlanta Falcons in 77. And I thought it was interesting to bring that up since poaching coaches is a big thing nowadays, right? And everyone's worked up. Think about that. The Rams lost 2 head coaches off their roster going into the 77 season. And of course, they did lose the Mud Bowl. So, right, there we go. Okay, guys, I better let you go, because if I don't let you go, I'm going to not get my daughter to school, and I'm going to miss my wife's outpatient surgery. But God bless. Thanks for clicking on. Please hit like, subscribe, check us out, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.